Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Noller, would you have our invitation for us, please?
I'd like everybody back here a moment of silence for people of Washoe, Wisconsin. And then after that, we will repeat the Lord's Prayer. All right. Our Father, which art in heaven, thou be thy name. Thy kingdom come, will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone out tonight. Looks like we've got a good group in the gallery. Appreciate your attendance. Commissioners, if you haven't logged in on your vote, please show that you're here. I think we need, I think that's all. We have 18 plus 1 present, 2 absent. You have that, Miss Rita? Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. First order of business tonight is to approve the minutes from the October 25th, 2021 meeting. They've been distributed. Are there any deletions, additions, corrections? Mr. Ford, you're recognized.
Approved.
Have a motion to approve is presented. Mr. Dickey makes a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Announcements. Would like to announce that the community Thanksgiving meal is tomorrow at the high school. Anyone that would like to have a good Thanksgiving meal certainly can come. There's no cost involved. Anyone that would like to get a meal can come and be fed. Tomorrow night starts at 4 o'clock. I think it goes until the food's out, is my understanding. They're not doing carry out, so if you want a meal, you need to show up or make arrangements if it's for a shut-in or something prior to tomorrow night. Also, just to remind everyone, traditionally we do not have a meeting in December. That's one reason I think our agenda is so lengthy tonight, is we try to dispense of anything that might be coming down the pike. Certainly, if something that cannot wait until January, we will try to do a call meeting if the mayor and myself see fit. But right now, we don't have anything scheduled, so you can plan on that. There are several committee meetings that are going on, I think, next week and the first week of December, and we will we'll cover those when we get down to the committee reports, so everybody can make note of them. That's all the announcements I had. Did any commissioners, do y'all have anything? Mayor, did you have anything in the way of announcements?
The only thing is just remind everyone the Christmas parade is going to be on December 11th at 10 a.m. I think you can go to Ms. Crowder's office or a couple of banks if you want to enter the Christmas parade. Again, that is Saturday, December 11th at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Yes. Thank you. It's hard for me to be thinking that it's time for Christmas. I'm really. Ms. Beverly.
I would like for everyone to help and join me in wishing Mr. Dwight Jewell a happy birthday today. Yeah. Can we all sing to him? Birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that more than, you know, at my age, I'm trying to forget about birthdays, but it's too hard to do that when you have so many people that keep reminding you of it. But thank you. I appreciate that more than you believe. There's no further announcements. Get into our agenda. We do have a few amendments to the agenda there again because of some of the last minute things we're trying to take care of. First, we need to add under resolutions, item 7, resolution 2021-40-744. This is on the COVID-19 leave extension. I believe that was sent out to you and you should have a copy of it at your desk as well. Also, we need to withdraw budget amendment 2022-101 16FB. The mayor is asking to withdraw that. He's been able to hire someone and he feels that money's not going to be needed. So he's asking that we just withdraw that tonight. Also, we will have one thing under other business, and this is for traffic signal modernization grant to give the mayor authorization to go ahead and apply for that grant. It's 100% grant strictly for traffic light updates, and it does not have any money involved in it, so felt like we could just tackle that under other business. And then we do have a couple of notaries for you as well at the end. Did I get everything, Amy? Mayor, did that cover everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. That would be our agenda tonight. Mr. Harsh.
Move to set the agenda with the changes you just mentioned.
Have a motion to set the agenda with the few changes that were mentioned. Ms. Jones has a second. Are there any question on it? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Agenda is set. Citizens' response to the agenda. Any of the citizens that are here in the gallery that would like to speak to any of the items that we have on this month's agenda, we would like to ask you to come forward and sign in so that we can recognize you at the proper time. If you want to speak, we do need to get you to sign in. If you're here and you're one of the petitioners on one of the resolutions or ordinances, of course, we would recognize you. You wouldn't need to sign in. But if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak, we would certainly like you to have the opportunity to do that if you feel you need to. Also, when we come down to that time, if you decide you don't want to, just simply indicate that when we call on you. Just because you sign up now doesn't necessitate that you would absolutely have to. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Bowles, would you mind bringing that to me? Thank you. Mr. Royals, you'd simply put down rezoning, which one? Okay. It's what I thought, but I didn't want to make an assumption. Let me keep up with these if you can. Okay, since Mr. Beller's not here. Oh, I forgot, I was remiss in saying Mr. Beller was under the weather tonight. He's not feeling real good, so he said he would be available by phone if we need him for something tonight. And I told him certainly we couldn't begrudge him not being here tonight, as good as he's been to always be at our meetings. So if we need him, he is available. Let's see. Next item of business would be our schools quarterly report. Dr. Satterfield.
Okay, okay, thank you. I have before you our quarterly report for this fiscal year, FY22. I'll try to do it in the same format I have. The first 2 pages, those things highlighted in yellow, are fiscal year, this current fiscal year, FY22. The last 2 pages, pages 3 and 4, are from the same time in the prior fiscal year, FY21. So it just gives you a little comparison of where we were last year to where we are at the same time this year. So if you're looking on the first page, the major revenue streams are the first line, current property tax. At this point, we've brought in $4,678. This time last year, it was $7,034. Not concerned about a lot of that because people are not paying their taxes here early. If you move to the local option sales tax, that's always an interesting one to look at. So far this year, we've brought in $165,380 compared to $150,925. So that's up about $14,500 from this year. Last year, that is good news. If you look at the second yellow line, the basic education program or the state funding mechanism, the BEP that we often refer to, this year, we have currently brought in $1,628,000. This time last year, it was $1,586,000. And you can see that that's an increase of $42,000 from this point last year. When you move to the total revenue, that is $1,869,508. The thing that I tried to highlight there for you, and I'll show you to in a minute, is if you count the middle school roof bond and look at the revenues at this point last year, there's about 1,400,000 for the middle school roof bond, which showed as a revenue. But when you take that out, it's really $1,823,026. So when you compare those 2 revenue streams, actually, that our revenues is up $46,482 from this point last year. And just a little information is when you look at the BEP and you say, well, you know, we're $42,000 up from a BEP revenue from last year. But remember, those BEP dollars are flow through dollars. And most of the time that goes toward salaries. And if you look at the expenditures, and I don't have those highlighted yellow, but if you look at that first one, 71,100 regular instructional program, you can see that this year that expense has been $625,593 compared to last year that expense was $494,941, which is a difference, a deficit of $131,000. So you can see the BEP went up 42,000, but just the expenditure of one line item went in the red 131,000. You can also see that on the third line down, 71,200 special education, where there's quite a few teachers in that, and you can see that the difference is, you know, $12,159. So even though the BEP brought in $42,000 more, that you can just see from two line items, then the deficit spending is $193,000 or more. So that's just an idea there. Now, if you'll turn over to page 2, and this is one of the things that I'm trying to show here, is if you look at the line item 1, 2, 3, 4 up, 76,100 regular capital outlay, you will see an actual, this was, and we had to pay this off this year. This is the football stadium. And you can see that's $679,961. Now, still about $160,000 payment that will go in that, but that's the majority of that is paid. But that came from fund balance. So really, when you strike that, when you take that out, that actual expenditure, taking the stadium out at this time, the same time this year, is $1,789,083. And you take that from the actual revenue that I showed on the first page. So when you look at actual numbers, then we're up about $33,943,000 from where we were at this point last year. So that's a good thing. Nobody's getting rich or hitting a windfall or anything like that. So pages 3 and 4 are prior year. Pages 1 and 2 are current year for this quarter. Any questions you might have? Ms. Jones.
Expenditures here?
You're on page 1?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Could that be contributed to the in-person school this year as compared to the schedule last year?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I could say is if you go back to page 4, I tried to compare for FY21 actual expenditures compared to actual revenue, showed a gain of $179,646. That's the first time in many years that we haven't been in a deficit. So that increased fund balance, $179,000. So when you talk about federal projects, is one of the things, and I've mentioned this more than once, is we've been able, with the influx of federal dollars, we have been able to use those dollars in places where we might have used local dollars in the past, which has attributed to that increase in fund balance that you're seeing on page 4. So the federal dollars has supplemented local dollars, you know, over the past 2 years. And we continue to try to do that, you know, in this year and the next year. We just need to be aware that those federal dollars are not reoccurring dollars. They're one-time dollars. And at some point in time, those non-reoccurring one-time dollars will fall off the cliff, and then we'll be back on our own again.
But I'm talking about the differences between the regular instruction program expenditures and the special education program expenditures. The difference, would that not be contributed to going 5 days a week versus going to the 2 days?
No, those are teacher line items. I'm sorry. Those are teacher line items, salary line items, and we never did any furlough of any staffing. So what I'm saying is our teachers worked 5 days a week, regardless if they were in an in-person or a remote setting during the pandemic.
You didn't hire some of the staff back. So there were positions that you did not hire. Is that
You're
correct?
talking about?
Last year with COVID.
There was, yes, but most of those were not in those two line items. Those are teacher line items. And I think what you're talking about is some things that we didn't hire as many food service staff was where we made a difference. It was in food service staff because the kids were only there 40% of the time. So we basically cut our food service staffs in half last year.
Any teacher positions?
No,
Would explain, or are you saying that will explain the difference?
no, the difference that you're going to see there is due to mandatory salary increases that are set at the state level. So what you see is the BEP only pays for us this formula year. Y'all get that worksheet as well as I do, but I think if you look at it, it funds 87.5 teachers, and we have 11 teachers more than that. So then that difference is made up for those teachers that are not funded in the BEP formula.
You are saying that that had nothing to do with those expenditures?
That's correct.
Okay.
For those two line items that we just mentioned. Mr. Chairman, may I also add, for just a second, is I just want to be sure to tell everybody, and you'll get an invitation, but we're working on a Christmas breakfast, and we're going to send off. So be looking for your invitation in the mail, but that'll be on Thursday, December the 16th at 8 a.m. So if you put that on your calendar, we'd like for you to come to our Christmas breakfast. That'll be held in the morning at Charleston County High School. And then also we're going to reinstate our commissioners dinner, and that'll be on Thursday, February the 24th. So if you'll get those on your calendar, and I know Chairman Jewell will get those dates to you, but Christmas breakfast, 8 o'clock on the 16th, and then the commission dinner on Thursday, February the 24th. And we're going to try to hold that at the middle school, and hopefully we'll be putting our windows in by then. So you'll get to see that work. We haven't been able to start that project yet. There's a materials delay on getting aluminum, but we hope by that, you laugh at me, don't you, Mr. Buckmaster? Everybody's having that problem, but we're hoping to have those window projects at least started by the time we have that dinner. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Also, December 2nd, we'll have Education Committee meeting at 6 o'clock to go over the proposed changes to BEP. This is going to be, or trying to be, a joint meeting with the commission and the Board of Education. And it will be here on December the 2nd at 6. There's a lot of proposed changes to that and a lot of things that we really need to stay on top of, and felt like be best to just try to open that dialogue together jointly with everyone, so that if you want to go ahead and make note of that too. Also, Dr. Satterfield, I know this is ending through September. Most of your your property tax dollars come in October.
Right.
So I'm sure if you were looking at the end of October figures on the property tax, you see it a whole different picture there. They actually have been coming in more than they were last year.
And that's why I try to compare the current financial situation for this quarter in FY22 as compared to 21, where you see it in the same time of the year.
Appreciate it. Any other questions for Dr. Satterfield? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Move into the mayor's report. Mayor Chambers.
Yes, sir. Just reiterate what I said last week about the streetscape. We're still going back and forth with TDOT on what they claim is an overage in payments to us. There's some dispute on that, so we're going back and forth with them. I said there may be a budget amendment coming either January or February, depending on what the discussion with them is. But like I said, it's something we're going back and forth with them on that. And as far as that, the only other items I have already been discussed, and that was the community Thanksgiving tomorrow from 4 to 7 PM, and then the Christmas parade on December 11th at 10 AM. I can answer your questions on, if anybody's got a question on something, I can answer.
Commissioners, any questions for the mayor? Don't see any. Thank you. We'll move into our committee reports. Steering committee met on November the 9th. Reviewed the minutes of the previous meeting and they were approved. First order of business was to elect officers. The officers elected for the 2021-2022 year were myself as chairman, Commissioner Ford as vice chairman, and Commissioner Atwood as secretary. We discussed the property assessor's request to change the county assessment plan from 6 years to 5 years. And we decided to move that on to the full body. We also the mayor talked about the opioid settlement resolution that we have on here tonight, and we move that to the full body. There was some discussion about the need for expansion at the health department building, that they are making requests to that effect. The mayor was just wanting to let us know that they have requested that, and that we would be working on it, and no action needed at this time other than to make us aware of it. And then we talked about the mayor's MOU that he's worked out with Sumner County on the Veteran Service Office. And we discussed that at length and decided to recommend putting a committee together to study this, but to also move forward with the MOU so that office can be manned a lot quicker. And both of those items are on your agenda for tonight. We had discussed the animal shelter director compensation. That was moved to budget and finance. Of course, that has been withdrawn tonight. Discussed the Tennessee grant to improve traffic signal update. That was sent to the full body. That's what we're going to take up under other business tonight. Gave an update on the TCSA conference, and had a discussion about EMS and the way the overtime had been figured or not figured on the transition checks, and that was sent to budget and finance. And there is a resolution ordinance budget amendment on your agenda tonight for that. We had public comments and had a motion to adjourn. That was the steering committee meeting November 9th. Most things were moved on to the full body for tonight. Any questions on that one? Okay. Next, we had solid waste met on November 4th. Mr. Johnson, are you going to give us that report, sir?
I don't have one.
Okay. Yes.
I've got the minutes here. I'll kind of go over a little of it.
Okay.
First thing we discussed was we had the election of officers, and Mr. Johnson was elected chairman. I was vice chairman, and Mary Ann Baker was secretary. And then we talked about some surplus vehicles, and it's on the thing tonight. So we approved those. And then we talked about a Title 17 update needed, and Mr. Salee and the mayor are going to work, and we're going to work on getting that up to date. And then we talked about increasing the trash service. Financial deficit was 53,000 last year. And we want to move the 40-yard roll-off dumpsters up to $325 for 14 days, which is 2 weeks, and $45 per ton. Currently, it's $150 per month and $37 per ton. I believe that passed and went forward to go forward. And incorporate the pass the resolution. Something about if there are dumpsters that we have at your houses, if they get damaged or something, you'd be responsible for paying for them. It was on an ordinance, but that never got brought forward, and Mr. Ferguson voted, we voted to move it forward, but I don't see it on the paperwork tonight, so I guess it'll come up later. And then we tabled the consulting service, get a little more information off of that before we decided if we were going to adopt that or not. That's all I can remember.
Any questions, Mr. Nolan? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Next is emergency services, November 4th, Mr. Nolan.
All right. We elected officers. I'm chairman again. Mr. Ferguson is vice chair, and Ms. Russell is secretary. And the fire chief got up and spoke. We still, he's waiting on the company to get us the brush truck. Still ain't got the body part of it yet, the frame. Still waiting on that, and training, everything's going good. No problems there. They got a couple new people that's come on, and then we Mr. Carmen got up and talked for the EMS, had a lengthy thing. If any of you have seen it, it's very good. But the main part of it was that we're short 2 EMTs and or 2 paramedics, and possibly going to be 4 here by the first of the year, which will make us shut down a truck. Will be 1 truck in all of our people. They want raises, and they're going to other counties. Metro's hiring from Gallatin, and Gallatin's wanting to hire from us. So it's just a trickle down effect on us, and about all I can remember at the moment.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Nolan? Okay.
Oh, one other thing. We just decided that on the siren, that would not pay no $12,000 to fix it, and forever to push everybody signing up on the 911, so you get it on your phone or that way.
That it? Thank you. Purchasing oversight, November 15th, Mr. Ford.
Yes, sir, we met November 15th. First thing we did is elect officers. They stayed the same. I was elected chairman. Mr. Burton was elected vice chairman. We had a total of 18 items to look at. 9 of them were under contract, and the other 9, as we were told, within the budget. So there were no abnormalities. So we adjourned.
Any questions for Commissioner Ford? Okay, thank you. Budget and Finance met November the 15th. At 6 o'clock, at 13 present, 1 absent. The minutes from October 18th meeting were reviewed, and the minutes were approved. Elected officers. I was re-elected chairman, and Mr. Ford was re-elected vice chairman, and our secretary was elected was Amy Thomas. She serves on that committee with us as budget director. We looked over the county trustees reports and the financial summaries through the end of October. The trial balance and financial statements provided by the trustee were all in order. There were no anomalies that were noticed or noted. One of the line items when we were going over our line by line departmental was that recycled materials was up quite a bit. That's because we'd been holding quite a bit of those recycled materials till the price went up. It finally did, and we were able to sell them. There were no other really concerns presented or asked about the financial summaries, and they were approved. Budget amendments. We had, the first one was animal shelter director compensation was a request by the mayor to up the funds in that line item. And this, like I said, has been withdrawn. Veteran Services MOU with Sumner County. This was 2022-101-17 for $5,000. This was approved by Budget and Finance to go to the full body. It is on our agenda tonight. We also had a fund balance draw. The administration of courts had sent us a letter stating that we jumped a class in general sessions because of the new census data, and that our general sessions judge was entitled to an increase, and that it was retroactive to April 1st of last year, which resulted in money having to be made up from last year, this year, and going forward this year. And that all together, our best figures, amounts to $54,752.74. This will be a fund balance draw. It is on your agenda tonight. It was approved by Budget and Finance unanimously. Also, we had 2022-101-19 FB. This was a fund balance draw going to elections to cover the cost of holding an election in May for judicial primaries. Both parties had requested a primary be on the ballot, and typically we have not done that in times past, so it was not allowed for in the budget. So we're going to have to fund that. That is $17,984, and that is on your. That was sent forward unanimously by the Budget and Finance Committee. Also, we had received 2 grants from the Secretary of State on archives. They are where we receiving the money in, and they are specifically for office supplies and microfiche equipment for the archive. That was moved to your agenda tonight. The Senior Center GNRC grant, they have received a grant to help pay portions of the employees' there's compensation. That is in the amount of $7,800. That is on your agenda for tonight as well. Ambulance Services 118 Fund 2022-118-01. This was the MS bonus pay. We're taking that funding out of the local government support reserves, and this is an overtime portion of the EMS pay that was omitted from the bonus paid out in November 5th when we transitioned over to a direct deposit situation with the paychecks. That was passed 10-2 in favor of sending it to the full body, and that's in the amount of $9,120. And that's on for your consideration tonight as well. Commissioner Noller approached us asking about displaying the vote on the monitors. That's something we're still trying to work out, and we will certainly address that hopefully going forward. And I believe that was all the business that we had that night. Any questions on any of that? Okay. All right, next we had Buildings Committee, November 16th, Mr. Harsh.
Yes, the meeting was November the 16th, and we approved the previous meeting's minutes. Then we went into our first order of business, which was to elect officers. I was reelected vice chair, Steve Whitaker reelected. I was elected chair, Steve Whitaker reelected vice chair, and John Oliver elected secretary. The mayor then, as we got into old business, gave us an update on the renovations to the courthouse to make the election office ready for use. Mayor Chambers reported that the flooring, heating, and other issues are being addressed and taken care of. The election official, Mr. Paxton, spoke to the group, giving some deadlines that needed to be met by the election commission. He hopes to be in place in the new offices by the 1st of February. Mr. Paxton did report that the efforts are ongoing to hire a part-time assistant for his office. Then we spoke about the courthouse windows. Mayor Chambers reported on the expense other counties had encumbered when getting bids to do their comparable jobs. After some consultation with others, he's going to see how much work we can do here with the county workers to save money, as most of the work is just painting, which hopefully Mr. Slee and his staff could manage. The mayor then updated the committee on the needed replacement to the courthouse heating and cooling systems. He's given blueprints to some companies to help them prepare bids and is waiting to hear back from them. The mayor also noted that he had been approached about the county selling some land to the fire hall, but although at the present the county is not using that land, it may well be needed for county use in the future. The mayor reported that GNRC is looking for locations to finance affordable housing in underserved communities and may be looking at Trousdale County in the near future. And new business, the committee was informed that the health department is asking for an addition to their building on East Main Street. They need room storage and more examination room. While it was agreed that their needs were realistic, no action was taken by the committee until the Budget and Finance Committee could come up with a way to pay for the improvements, and we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Harsh. Any questions for Mr. Harsh? Any questions, commissioners? Okay. Next, I believe you had economic development on November 16th.
Yes, sir. We again approved the minutes from the previous meeting and went right into our officers' elections. I was elected chairman, Amber Russell vice chairman, and Lonnie Taylor secretary. Then we discussed retail strategies update. Mr. King and the mayor updated us on this retail strategies. Mr. Chambers elaborated on how it was going, and they related that it was just now beginning, transitioning from a study into an actual implementation. They were both optimistic and enthusiastic as to the expected results going forward. Next, we took up the discussion of the Placemakers Entrepreneurial Funds. This is a grant program to be funded up to $15,000 with no match for starting enterprises. There was a motion made by, and the motion carried to for the mayor to apply for this grant program. Then we had an update from Mr. King on the pilot program. Mr. King said that it was progressing well, that Mr. Rochelle was instrumental in putting together, and that the industrial board was delighted to have him involved. There has been 2 focus group meetings that have taken place, and others plan to encourage the ones in local government and the planning. This, once completed, it will be presented to the county commission for their possible approval and implementation. And we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Harsh. Any questions for Commissioner Harsh? Seeing none, were there any other reports that we missed on committees last month? I'm sorry, that's right, personnel, November 18th, Mr. Ferguson.
Met November the 19th. We passed the minutes and then we went into the nomination election of officers. I was nominated and elected as the chairman again, and Amber Russell swept the other two, being both vice chair and secretary. And then we dove back into the areas that we were in need of addressing to finish up our study for our part on the personnel policies. And the first thing we need to do, and you're going to see it tonight, is that we had to extend the date on the COVID-19 sick leave policy. We tackled that because if we don't tackle it tonight, it's supposed to expire on the 31st of this year. So we've moved that forward to make sure that gets covered. Some of the topics we talked about, I'm just going to flip through them as we go through it. Leave of absence without pay. We talked about family and medical leave. We talked about inclement weather conditions, administrative pay with leave, in line of duty, injury leave, military leave, termination pay, part-time employees, just a myriad of different topics. And we got to the end. And so now what we did as a committee, we voted to approve of the changes as we went through them as we thought would be best, except for the fact that when it comes to the pay, the COLA, and the step raises, we have now moved that over to budget and finance to put their eyes on it. And I would recommend anybody that you're going to face this as a full body soon. So they're going to look at it first. The group that actually did the study that we are looking at on compensation, Burris and Thompson and Associates, are going to return to talk to the Budget and Finance Committee. And, at that point, I think if some people had some questions, it'd be a great time to do it at that time, because that will be the focus of the subjects at hand. And so that's kind of where we are, where we have moved some of it forward. And I think in January, we'll probably address the entire issue of the changes. And hopefully by that time, any commissioner that wants to see the changes, and there's quite a few, you'll see the old policy with the line drawn through it as to what was in place. Or you'll see just red wording of the things that are new that may be added as an addition that is needed, or you'd see both red that's going to replace what was there once before. So it's quite a bit. So I would encourage you, when it's time to look at that, maybe to look at it before the work session, because that'll be a great time to if you have any questions about, hey, I noticed on this topic, I have a question about that. How did you come to that conclusion? Please do so at that time, because that'll be the best time for us to do that right before we actually take a vote on that. But that's where we were on the 19th.
I believe it was the 18th. Yeah, I believe it was the 18th.
Everyone is
Agenda
one too far
probably said
along.
19th, but it was the
Okay.
18th. Were there any other committees that we overlooked? Okay. Just a word of announcement, Insurance Committee is scheduled to meet on December the 9th at 6 o'clock. Mr. Gregory wanted me to make y'all all aware of that, December the 9th at 6 o'clock. Also, as I said earlier, on December 2nd, the Education Committee will meet with a joint meeting with the Board of Education here, and certainly any of the commissioners are welcome to come to that. Also, the Law Enforcement Committee will meet around 7 o'clock after that meeting. Got several things on that agenda that's come over from the mayor, as well as trying to elect new officers. Are there any other committee meetings scheduled that anyone needs to make us aware of? Ms. Jones?
Law enforcement then is on December 2nd, is that correct? Around 7?
December the 2nd at 7 o'clock. It's at 7. Education at 6. Education at 6 and law enforcement at 7. I'm sorry if I misspoke. Okay. Ms. Baker?
Who was elected secretary of the Purchasing Oversight Committee? Mr. Ford?
Mr. Ferguson, who was elected Secretary of Personnel Committee? I'm sorry, Mr. Ford.
I think it was Miss Amy.
No, the officers were elected to remain the same, and Ms. Jones is Secretary of the Purchasing.
Anything else before we move on? Okay. We'll move into our active business. Under appointments, committee adjustments. We had a few mistakes in the committee sheet we handed out last week. I think Amy had a hard time reading some of my scratching, and I didn't scratch very well. But this should reflect that everyone is on 5 committees. And typically when we've made changes going forward from our original resolution, we just acknowledge those changes and go forward with it. Any questions on this one at this time? Okay. We'll move on into resolutions. Our first resolution is 2021-31-735. This is Charter Amendment 406C. This is our second reading on this. We approved it once before. We'll have to approve it 3 consecutive readings. Then it will go to the Election Commission to be put on the ballot in the general election. Any questions on this? What's the will of the body? Ms. Jones, have a motion to approve. Ms. Baker? Okay, have a second. We do have a motion and a second. Motion by Ms. Jones, a second by Ms. Baker to move this on. All in favor? We want to use our little voting thingy. Okay. We're trying to get used to doing this. This is on your charter resolution. Please record your vote. The plus is a yes, the negative is a no. It's not showing up. All right, I got everyone. Who are we missing? Who are we missing? We had Mr. Johnson, then he took it out. Okay. All right, anyone want to change their vote? Record the vote, please.
17 yes, 1 no.
It does carry. Next, we have resolution 2021-35-739. This is a resolution declaring certain vehicles as surplus for disposal. There is a list provided there. Some will be sold on Gov Deals, some will be actually sold as scrap. Any questions on this one? Mr. Noller? Have a motion to approve. Mr. Harsh gets a second. Have a motion by Mr. Noller, second by Mr. Harsh. Record your vote, please. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
Does carry. Next is resolution 21-36-740. This is a resolution declaring certain vehicles and equipment as surplus for disposal. This one is coming from the Highway Department. Most of these, they plan to sell at auction. Any questions on this one? Pretty extensive list here. Mr. Ford?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Ford, a second by Mr. Dickey. Any further questions? Okay. Please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, record the vote, please.
18 yes, 0 no.
Does carry. Next, resolution 2021-37-741. This is a resolution authorizing Hartsville, Trousdale County to join the state of Tennessee and other local governments as a participant in the state's subdivision opioid abatement agreement and approving all the related settlement agreements. Any questions on this one? Have a motion to approve. Ms. Atwood. Second by Ms. Russell. Any questions? Okay. All right. Ready for vote? All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? And record the vote, please.
18 yes, 0 no.
All righty. Next is resolution 2021-38742. This is a resolution authorizing continuous 5-year reappraisal cycle. This came forward from Mike Potts, the property assessor. This will change our appraisal cycle from a 6-year cycle to a 5-year, and this should cut out the necessity for a 3-year interim appraisal. Is any questions on this one? Mr. Harsh. Have a motion by Mr. Harsh to approve. Mr. Taylor gets the second. Any further questions on this one? Okay. Record your vote. Did you get me? Didn't think it took. Didn't think it took. Who we missing? Mr. Clarity. Okay. All votes in. Anyone like to change your vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
It is approved. Next, we have resolution 2021-39-743. This is a resolution to establish a Veteran Services Committee. This will authorize myself to set up a special committee. This is a study committee. It is a temporary committee, and to analyze the need for Veteran Service Office, to make recommendations as to what services would be included in it, and possibly what hours or how much time would be involved in providing those services. Ms. Jones. We have a motion to approve by Ms. Jones. I have a second by Ms. Atwood. Is any further discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, record the vote. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Okay, please record the vote.
17 yes, 1 abstain, 0 no.
Okay. It is approved. That committee will consist of Commissioner Walsh, Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Davis, Dr. Bill Painter, Dave Trainey, the commander of the VFW, and the commander of the American Legion, or someone to be appointed in their stead by them. 7-member committee. Next, Resolution 2021-4744. This is the amending our personnel policy and COVID sick leave. It was set to expire this, I think extends the date out to January 21st,
To December 31st, 2024, and that's
24.
to coincide with the allocation requirement under the American Rescue Fund, because some of the money can be used to reimburse the county for people that are on a COVID sick leave.
Thank you, Mayor. This was recommended by the Personnel Committee at their November 18th meeting. Are there any questions on this one? Any questions? Okay. See none. Record your vote, please. As soon as it's ready. I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford makes a motion. Ms. Jones makes a second. Okay, we now have a motion by Mr. Ford and a second by Ms. Jones. Now please record your vote. I apologize. All the resolutions. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
It does pass. I believe that takes care of all our resolutions tonight. We'll move into ordinances. I have several ordinances that we open for public hearing and a second reading. First is ordinance 226-2021-17. This is an ordinance to repeal Title 18 of the Water and Sewer of the old Hartsville Governmental Code. This was approved by the Water and Sewer Board, and we would open this up for a public hearing tonight. Public hearing is declared open. Is there anyone would like to speak to this item? Anyone wish to speak on this item? Anyone wish to speak? Mr. Buckmaster?
Motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Buckmaster, second by Mr. Nollner. Any further discussion or questions? Vote to close the public hearing. Voice vote on this one. Let's just do a voice vote on this one. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing is closed. We'll take up ordinance 226-2021-17. This is ordinance to repeal Title 18. This will be our second and final reading on this.
I'll make a
Ms.
motion.
Baker,
Motion to approve.
have a motion to approve, and Mr. Dickey makes a second. Any further discussion on this one? Okay. Let's record our vote on this one. Please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none. Let's say I've got one. Ms. Baker? Okay. Okay, I believe they're all in now. Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Okay, that one is passed. Okay, next we have ordinance 227-2021-18. This is a rezoning request to rezone a portion of property from R1 to C2 located on Mcmurray Boulevard. in front of Hickory Ridge. We would open the public hearing. I do have some people signed up to speak to this. We would, in no particular order other than the way you got here first. I've got, let's see, just Mr. Royals, Ed Royals. If you would come to this microphone and we'll turn it on for you. And limit what you have to say to about 3 minutes, if you would, sir.
Okay. Thank you all commissioners for giving us this opportunity to voice our concerns in this. This resolution was brought before you a couple of years ago and you all turned it down at that time, and thank you for that. And our concerns remain the same because of zoning that area at the entrance of our neighborhood to make it commercial. There's no limit, to my understanding, of what type of commercial business could go in there. And we're mainly concerned with our property values and traffic that would increase because of that. We understand that this is a investment property and Mr. Ford's certainly entitled to make a profit off his property. But all of the homeowners in the community, in the Hickory Ridge community, made an investment also. And that is all of my investment is in that house there. And I would seriously ask you to consider protecting my property from its value being lower. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Royals. I believe that's all we had signed into it. Commissioners, anyone like to speak to this? Okay.
Hang on.
What's the will of the body? I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
I'll wait till the motion, then in discussion, I'll say something.
Motion to approve. Motion. Oh, to close public hearing. I'm very sorry. Motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Walsh and second by Mr. Dickey. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing is closed. Now we will take up consideration of Ordinance 227-2021 to rezone partial tax map 019M, partial 017, 00, 24, and 25 from R1 to C2. This was recommended by the Planning Commission, and we did hold a public hearing tonight. It did pass on first reading. We will take up our second reading tonight. Now, what is the will of the body? Mr. Clarity, you're recognized. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Clarity. Ms. Atwood has a second. Any further discussion on this one?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Walsh, sorry, sir.
On the statement of recommendation, it's got the reason was to change the lots back to the original commercial zoning. Why was it changed originally from commercial to R1 or to begin with?
Anyone answer that?
Are taxes lower when it's zone R1 versus commercial?
Possibly. Typically, your taxes is based on use, and since it's unimproved property, either way, I think the difference would be, there might be a difference, but it would be negligible. It would be 25% versus 40%. So it could make a slight difference, I would think. Ms. Baker, can you answer that?
I can just tell you what I've heard of my understanding of it. The state had actually zoned all property along that highway commercial. The property owner come back, or they came before the Planning Commission or the County Commission and asked that it be zoned residential. It was done so. And in Trousdale County, I believe property is taxed on use, not what it's zoned on. So does that help any?
Did that answer your question, Mr. Walsh, between
Yes,
myself
it
and
did.
Ms.
Thank you.
Baker?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? Amber?
Hey, does anybody remember what the argument was that led us not to pass this last time?
I don't even remember what day it is. I'm sorry. I can't answer that. Mr. Noller, can you answer
I
that?
believe that, at that time, there was some talk of the hotel going in, maybe in that area. I think. That's
I
the
think
only thing
there
I
was
remember.
possibility of a hotel being built there and to facilitate the availability of that track when they were looking at tracks around town. It needed to be rezoned. And I think they chose not to do that anyway. So, but that's, now that you've mentioned it, I think that's correct, but I can't swear to it. Mr. Walsh?
When Hickory Ridge subdivision was built, was that property zone residential or commercial?
My recollections is that it was commercial when it was first developed. That's one reason the tracks were so large at the front. Typically, I think at least 200 feet along either side of a main thoroughfare on Highway 25 has been reserved for commercial property in the initial zoning maps that were laid out. Some point in time, I don't know whether when the entire plat for Hickory Ridge was approved and changed from agricultural to R1 that it was included, but pretty typical to have commercial along the front of the property on the highway. But currently it is zoned R1. This request is to take it to roadside commercial C2. Mr. Harsh.
Question.
Okay, we do have a call for the question. We do have a motion to approve and a second. Okay, everybody please record your vote. Anyone wish to change their vote? Would remind some that they can abstain. Okay, all votes in. Please record the vote.
Ten yes, 2 abstain, 6 no.
It is approved. Okay. Next ordinance, your packet, ordinance 228-2021-19. This is resolution to change partial from A1 to R1. And we will open up public hearing on this one. This is located on Highway 141 North. Is that correct? Yes, I believe that's correct. Request is A1 to R1. Public hearing is now open. Didn't have anybody sign in to speak to this. Is there any questions on this? Anyone like to speak to this? Anyone like to speak to this rezoning? Mr. Harsh.
Move to close the public hearing.
Have a motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Harsh, second by Mr. Ford. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We will close the public hearing. We will take up consideration of ordinance 228-2021-19. This is an ordinance to rezone a parcel, tax map 007, 3 parcels, 005, 006, 006.03 from A1 to R1. This is located up on Highway 141 North. It did pass first reading. We have had a public hearing tonight. Second consideration. What's the will of the body? Mr. Clarity.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. I'm sorry, had Ms. Russell had the second. Okay. Any further discussion or questions on this one? Please record your vote. Okay, I believe all votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
Okay, it is approved. Next, we have ordinance 229-2021-20. This is, we'll open our public hearing on that ordinance. This is to rezone a parcel from A1 to R1 on Highway 10. Highway 10 North. Public hearing is now open. Anyone like to speak to this? Commissioners, anyone like to speak to this? Anyone in the public like to speak to this? Anyone like to speak to this matter? Seeing none. Mr. Ford?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Have a motion to close the public hearing. Ms. Baker has the second. All in favor of closing, Mr. Burton? Okay. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say yes. Yes. Any opposed? No. Okay. We will close the public hearing. We'll take up the reading of ordinance 229-2021-20. This is to rezone tax map 012, parcel 015.01 from A1 to R1. This parcel is located at or near 3605 Highway 10 in Hartsville. We have passed it on first reading. We have had a public hearing, and so now, Mr. Burton.
Motion approved.
Have a motion to approve. Mr. Harsh makes a second. Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Please record your vote. All votes in? No? There's a couple more. Mr. Burton? Okay, all votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
Does pass. It is approved. I believe that takes care of the ordinances we had for public hearing and second reading. We'll move into first reading on ordinance 230-2021-21. This is an ordinance for proposed rezoning of two parcels from R1 to C1 and C2. I think the reason it's two different zoning classifications, part of it is within the boundaries of urban services, and part of it is just over the boundary into county property. This was not recommended by the Planning Commission. We will have a public hearing if it passes tonight on January 24th. I did have some people signed in to speak to this tonight. Mr. Walsh?
Just curious, is this a typo in the agenda where it says second reading was held on January 24th, 2022? Should that be stricken from the agenda or from?
Well,
this
that's when it
ordinance?
will be if it passes tonight.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. All right. I have Daniel Soper. You would limit your comments to about 3 minutes. We'd appreciate it.
Thank you for everybody hearing me. Just a few concerns. My family bought a house in Dalton Hall 2010. We moved across the street 2013. We've got horses. Neighbors have got farm animals. Small road. Commercial kind of makes us worry about the traffic. Within the last 10 years or so, the traffic in the area has doubled, at least the amount of traffic going up and down the street. The upcoming expansion over here on 25 is a big worry for us. when people come into town, they come into that, whatever there's gonna be for delays there, they're gonna come up 141 over on the Dalton Hollow to get to Halltown to bypass that. I realized that Carmen on the corner, that is already zoned commercial. I don't really see that. They got main access right off of Halltown. They're right there on the main drag. Just concerns us with the amount of traffic there could possibly be, and it seems like the only reason for this rezoning is just merely to try and sell the property. There's no listing as what might actually be done if it's rezoned. And it also worries that the next 6 lots that are next to me are also owned by Carmen, and if this gets pushed over to commercial, then it'll be an opening for them to be pushed over to commercial. And it'll be right next to us. That's about it. Just a little bit of concern that mostly in the traffic. It's awful small. The bottom of that backside of that road is barely 2 lanes. I got nieces and nephews, small kids, the neighbors running around. But thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Commissioners, anybody have a question for Mr. Soper? Okay, next I have Elizabeth Soper signed in. There again, if you would limit your comments to about 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. I have the same concerns as my son. I'm the one that bought in 2010. He's the one that bought in 2013. We have very young children that are there. The traffic is already horrible. They use it as a racetrack. It's unsafe the way the road is made. There are no shoulders for these cars to be pulling off, to be pulling over, and I've almost twice gotten run over by taking my horse across the street. I don't think it should be made residential because it's in commercial because it is in a residential neighborhood. The pipeline is there. I have concerns over that. And it's major just for safety. And this is the reason we bought here, was because it was so quiet and it was such a nice city neighborhood. The people are awesome. We love it here. And it is our life savings that we are here. We have no way that we could go anywhere else. Just take into consideration if it was you. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Soper? See none. Next we have Joe Allison. Also, I'm sorry. That's all right. I get called Jew Hill a lot.
I live on Dalton Hollow. I've been there since 2010. I'm a single parent, and my concern is traffic. You know, unless y'all want to hire, 30 more police officers to start patrolling more. Like my other neighbor said, people do 100 miles an hour down that road. I've seen 5 or 6 wrecks. I've had someone wreck in my yard twice because of, it's a small country road. I just hope you take that into consideration. I know Mr. Holder wants to sell it. I understand that. But it doesn't need to be commercial. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, thank you. We do have the property owner here, I believe. Mr. Holder, would you like to say anything?
By listening, I have a little trouble talking. I understand the concerns of some of the people who have spoken, and I also understand the Planning Commission's decision. However, the Planning Commission was under the impression that I was just simply wanting to zone this commercial just to up the value and increase the possibility of sales, when in fact I have a sale for it, but on the letter of intent, one of the main conditions is that this property would be zoned C2. As to at the original hearing on the 8th, they put the fund to it as the 5-acre tract is zoned agricultural, but in fact, it's actually part of that Wagner property that Mr. Palmer owns and is zoned C2, and it never has been, to my knowledge, has been agriculturally zoned. It's always been residential. That's probably neither here nor there, but another consideration that some people want to make that it's a pristine agricultural lot way down Dalton Hall Road. As a matter of fact, you can stand anywhere on Highway 25 from the First National Bank all the way up to Wilson Bank and Trust. And you can look up there and you can see it. Now, mind you, you're not looking in the direction of it, ladies and gentlemen. You can actually physically see the lots. They're right there at the end of that Dalton Hall Lane. And I would assume, I'm not speaking for him, but I would assume that Mr. Palmer is probably going to use that little short section that it would use of Dalton Hall Road to go out on the Halltown Road. Now, one of the concerns by Mary Turner is with the GMRC, she was the advisor, was that they wanted to stay near 25, but I would point out to you that Halltown Road, by that short section runs out into, that Halltown Road is not directly on 25, and it borders all that, and it continues on and goes to your industrial park and to your convenience center. So the argument that everything's on 25 to be changed for the zoning, in my opinion, didn't apply. And so based on this, and here again, it's my opinion, I abide by whatever this body decides. But I'm respectfully asking for you to consider zoning this to C2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holder. Any questions, Mr. Holder? Okay. What we have before us is first reading on Ordinance 230, 2021-21. This is a rezoning request from R1 to C1 to C2 on Dalton Hollow Road near the intersection of Halltown Road. There again, this would be first reading tonight. If it is approved here, it would go up for a public hearing and a second reading in January. Any questions, commissioners, on this one? See none. Ms.
Yeah, I got
Russell?
one. Oop.
Excuse me. Ms. Russell?
Is there a way to keep this still residential and have it sell?
Is there a way to do what now?
To keep this residential and can you sell this property residential?
Can he sell the property if it's zoned residential? Is that your question? Well, I guess he could sell it, yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure I understand your question. Maybe somebody else understands it. So, can anyone answer, Ms. Russell? Ms. Baker, did you want to try? Mr. Edwards, if you want to speak, come down here, please, sir, to the microphone, as I've requested many times in the past. I said, if you want, come on down to the mic, if you don't mind. Maybe Mr. Edwards can answer your question, Ms. Russell.
Ms. Russell, if I understand your question properly, there's only one zoning classification that would allow it to stay residential and commercial at the same time. Is that what you were asking?
You live. the other residents of the area, they want it to stay residential.
Right.
So to me, I guess my thought is, I know maybe commercial will bring in more, but it's fine if he sells it, if it's still residential, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That was my, I didn't know if it was on deed or anything that said it had to be sold.
Not to my understanding.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Ferguson, you would ask to be,
Yeah, I think I'm reading here on the ordinance, it says that when it went before the Regional Planning Commission, that they reviewed it and recommended the request. Did they recommend this? Okay, that's what I thought I heard, so it's not recommended. Okay.
keyword was not. I believe the rationale with planning was that they were considering the spot zoning, that it wasn't attached to a commercial zone. And also the fact that this was not an arterial road or a main collector arterial road played into their decision on this matter. What we have before us today is to either approve it or disapprove it on first reading.
Chairman,
I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh.
make a motion to disapprove.
We have a motion to disapprove. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Ms. Baker? Have a second. Have a motion and a second to disapprove. Okay. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay. Once again, we have a motion in the negative, and that means that you're going to vote yes to disapprove it, and you're going to vote no to approve it. Or either way, it would be disapproved, and we'd have to take it up on a second motion, but okay. So everybody understand that? Okay. Okay, the motion was in the negative. The motion was to disapprove. You're voting on the motion. You're not voting on the rezoning. You're voting on the motion to disapprove the request for rezoning. So if you vote yes, you're disapproving it. Okay, if you vote no, then you're not. Everybody got it? Please record your votes. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote.
11 yes, 3 abstain, 4 no.
Okay, so the motion to disapprove passed. It is disapproved. Thank you. Next, move into budget amendments. The first one, 2022-101-16 FB was withdrawn. So the first one we'll take up is 2022-101-18 FB. This will be a fund balance draw. This is to do the required adjustments to the General Sessions Judge compensation. Questions? Okay, will of the body, Mr. Buckmaster.
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Buckmaster, second by Mr. Harsh. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their votes, please record the vote. Pardon? Mr. Whitaker, I don't believe yours took. There we go. All votes in, please record the vote.
18 yes, 0 no.
Okay. It is approved. Next, is, get to it, BA 101-19 FB election for May of 2022. There again, this is a fund balance draw in the amount of $17,984. This is for the election commission to have the funds available to fund the required election for a May 22 judicial primary. Mr. Ford.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Noller. Mr. Noller makes a second. We have a motion by Mr. Ford and a second by Mr. Noller to approve this fund balance draw for this election. Any further discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, please record your vote. Okay. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Record the vote, please.
17 yes, 1 abstain.
It is approved. Next is fund balance draw on 2022-101-19 FB. I'm sorry, that's one we just did. Move into appropriations. These are all moving funds. Can we take these all together? We have 4 appropriations, 3 in 101, 1 in 118. Does anyone wish for any of them to be pulled separately, or we can entertain a motion to take them all at one time? Mr. Harsh? We have a motion to take them all at one time. Have a second by Mr. Walsh. Okay, we're going to vote on 2022-101-17. This is the MOU on the Veteran Service Office of $5,000. 2022-101-20G on the Archives grants. 2022-101-21G on the Senior Center grants. And then ambulance service appropriation, the EMS overtime bonus amount, $9,120. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, we do have a motion to take them all together. Please record your vote. Mr. Johnson? All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote. No, I thought I did. Okay.
18 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Okay, they are all approved. Notaries, we do have 2 notaries for tonight. Robert Thurman with First National Bank, C.R. Watts, is it Watts? With Core Civic. Ms. Atwood makes a motion to approve. Mr. Taylor gets a second. All in favor of these notaries, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Come to the part of our other business. We need to take up this traffic signal modernization grant. This is a 100% funded grant that the mayor is requesting permission to apply for this grant. Mr. Harsh, we have a motion to approve. Mr. Clarity gets a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. It does pass. Next, public comment. Anybody in the audience like to make a comment? Seeing none. Seeing one. Seeing one.
I'll be brief. Everybody wants to go home. Industrial development meets tomorrow night here at 7 o'clock. We're also meeting again on December the 7th, which is a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. I would invite everyone, public or commission, to attend on the 7th. We're going to have a Zoom meeting with Retail Strategies. Will give us a summary of the past year's progress and a action plan on going forward. This is a project that will hopefully and very, very likely have a significant positive impact to our community. So I would invite everyone to sit in and become more familiar with it if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else? Seeing none, Mr. Walsh, you recognize.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dickey has a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I believe we are adjourned.